Chair will now begin the questioning by the members, and we are going to ask unanimous consent that the contents of the document binder be introduced into the record and to authorize staff to make any appropriate redactions. Without objections, the documents will be entered into the record with any redactions that staff determines are appropriate. Ms. Lyons, if I may ask you some questions. Does the USOC see itself as responsible for overseeing and enforcing policies that keep athletes safe?
Yes, I think that we do view ourselves as responsible, and I think if we have had a failing, it is that we have not adequately exercised our authority in that manner.
My question was, is that your responsibility? And that you've answered yes.
I believe it is.
Is it a top priority for the USOC?
It is a top priority.
And I'm glad you said that and view it that way, but we're all worried that it hasn't always been the case. If you could look at the document binder that's before you there and turn to tab 1. In tab 1, you're going to see a Washington Post article dated February the 23rd of 2018. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The article references a deposition in a 2016 lawsuit in which a Taekwondo athlete alleged that she was raped by her coach at the USOC's Olympic Training Center. USOC's lawyer Gary Johansson was asked whether protecting athletes from abuse was a top priority for the USOC. His response: the USOC does not have athletes. Does the USOC believe that it has the authority to require NGBs to implement policies and procedures?
Yes, I believe the Act does grant us that authority, and I think a change we need to make is for us to exercise that authority more thoroughly.
The USOC provides NGBs with governance support, and in some instances, the USOC has required changes to an NGB's bylaws related to the Act or the USOC's bylaws. Is that correct?
That's correct.
However, each NGB has their own governance structure and applicable bylaws and policies. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, you can have all of the policies and procedures in the world, but if they're not properly implemented, followed, or enforced, they're not doing much good. The USOC engaged Baker Tilly to conduct audits of the USOC and all of the NGBs and high-performance management organizations to assess their compliance with safe sport policies and procedures. The audit reports for each organization were issued last year in October 2017. Some of the organizations were found to be in compliance with the safe sport policies and procedures and didn't have any observations, but many were found to have deficiencies. Do you know how many audits found deficiencies?
Yes, in fact, at that time, the majority had deficiencies. However, I am pleased to say that virtually all are now in compliance.
Would it be fair to say that 43 NGBs had deficiencies?
That's correct.
The audit of the USOC itself also found a number of deficiencies for USOC. If you could turn to tab 2 in your notebook there. In tab 2, you'll see that audit, and these included a lack of guidance and specific requirements on anonymous or confidential reporting by survivors, training, and background checks, to name a few. Unlike the NGBs with deficiencies, however, there doesn't appear to have been a follow-up audit of the USOC. Do you plan to conduct a follow-up audit?
Let me just have a moment to review
Yes,
this.
ma'am.
Yes, just having looked at this, I think to any extent where we have deficiencies, it is required that we should do exactly the same thing that we expect of the NGBs. We should have a follow-up audit and ensure that we are ourselves in compliance.
What ability does the USOC have to enforce policies and procedures?
I think the Act grants us a great deal of authority. I think one of the areas that we most need to look at, and this is why we've introduced a governance review, is that we have two main levers. We can take away funding or we can decertify. Our main activity is to decide if an NGB is certified.
You can decertify, you can put them on probation, or you can withhold funds. Isn't that correct?
That is
so you
correct.
have a number of tools at your disposal. What circumstances would it take to warrant that the USOC take such actions? What do you have to see? What would you have to see in behavior by an NGB to decertify or to withhold funds? What are you looking for?
We look for a number of things. They include the ability to manage effectively and administratively. We look for them to have appropriate financial controls. And in the recent years, we have also added the very incredibly important requirement that they meet all of the safe sports standards, that they have just implemented all of the new language that is in the new legislation. So we have increasingly added to our list of compliance that they must have these safe sport protections, and we audit against that on a regular basis now.
My time has expired, and Chair will now recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, Ms. DeGette, for 5 minutes.